When the world is noisy, better turn life down. It's confusing on the radio. Better go out of town. Listen to some friends talking about things they know. Derailed.
All right, welcome to the Derailed podcast. With me, I have Google, and my other friend here is Haus. He has a nice, cool cowboy hat on.
Hi.
Yeah.
This episode, I wanted to talk about cubic measurement of penis size.
And
Volume.
and quickly the microphone is taken away from you. No. Hey, welcome to another episode, guys.
Can you do it like
Good to see
not a
you.
timid furry dude?
Yeah.
Do it again as a masculine.
Listen,
alpha
I
male.
want to look. Okay, I have no problem with furries.
Do it
You
like
just don't like timid.
do it like just timid people. Do it like Jordan Peterson.
He's timid. He's like
He's
the
not. He's not
definition.
timid.
If you go like,
No, he's not. He's not.
who's timid? Oh, Jordan Peterson.
You really think
Well-
he's timid?
Yeah,
Really?
I've seen him.
I don't think he is. I think
unless,
he's a very confident speaker. I don't think he's timid, honestly.
unless it's fake. I saw him
No.
in a porn, and he was real
What?
timid in it.
Okay, now you're just
He was
making
fucking
shit
a
up.
lobster. I'm not.
Yeah, you
He
probably
was
like
making a
lobster
in a
bisque.
porn.
No, he was fucking a lobster.
Is it like one of those where like the retard dude is masturbating on the side like that?
No, he had like a lobster plushie between the spokes in a wooden chair, and
What
he
the
was
fuck are
humping
you
it
talking
with
about?
his shirt
What
on.
are you talking?
and he
Yeah.
was like, in order to break preconception is to break the mold of normality. While he's like humping.
Welcome to the Derail podcast. I'm Kermit the Frog, and today we're going to be talking about topics that are relevant to your interests. Hey.
Okay, you degenerates, welcome to the latest episode of Derailed, the AB positive blood type podcast for alpha males. Was that better?
That's way
Was that
better,
more
dude. That was a
masculine?
shit ton better. Dude,
Yeah.
why can't you
Alright,
do them
good.
all like that?
Because I don't feel like I'm AB positive every
You're
day.
not
Oh,
ultimately AB positive.
Oh, negative. Wow.
Listen,
I don't even know what my
Oh,
blood type
behave.
is. I should know, but I don't.
No one knows what their blood. Dude, they'll figure that shit out pretty quick when you're.
They'll
in the
figure it when I'm
hospital.
dead. I mean, oh,
They'll
okay,
figure it out
we'll
when you're
figure a
giving
lot of
birth.
things out when we're dead. I feel like people know more about someone after they're dead, and that's kind of fucked.
Why?
You know? I don't know. It's just like, could have just known it while they were alive.
You know what? I think one thing that I've been really wanting to think about, and that's been thinking. I'm just thinking.
That's hard
Oh
thinking.
man, it's my heartbeat.
Thinking so
Man,
hard.
I've been thinking.
Me mama think.
Man,
I've been
lately,
thinking about
I'm
thinking.
thinking-
lately.
I've been thinking about getting Dark Souls books and reading them.
Why don't you play the game?
Yeah, good old book burning. Let's do it.
No, I like
Damn.
reading. I mean, I think reading's very important.
I love reading too, but get the game.
No, dude, read the books.
Why?
Yeah, but the game.
They're good. They're actually really good. It's like a
I
like
wouldn't know.
Beyond the Grave. Like that's remember we were talking about before. On
Yeah.
Google. It's a pretty good book actually. I read a couple of chapters. I haven't gotten fully and finished it. Like I just gotta fucking stop procrastinating and picking up WoW shit. Or sorry, not WoW shit. Warhammer stuff.
I suppose if your microphone is sitting on top of it, it's kind of difficult to.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
read it.
It's
right
hard
now.
to read.
Yeah,
Tough
it's
to
hard to
read.
read it.
Yeah.
Why do you have to bring that up? Jesus.
Well, you've been
Oh.
thinking. You
Mm,
got your cap on.
I don't know.
But
So
you
what's
know-
the topic we're starting with? Let's go.
Well, no. Well, we got some news. We got some things going on this week.
Haus.
In the
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
Let's get the bumperty, like the.
We got some stuff. Amy Schumer's still alive. That's some
Oh.
news.
That's
Roseanne's still alive.
mad as hell.
Are we sure about that?
Betty White still alive.
He's amazing.
For all you people with Deadpools out there, it's a dry week. Trust me.
Welcome to the pun
But-
podcast, dude.
Burt Reynolds
the
passed
first thing I
away,
want to
yeah.
talk about,
That was like last week. though.
some
That's like
recent.
3 weeks ago.
I don't know.
Wasn't that? Isn't that?
I don't know. I was kind of upset about that one because I like Smokey the Bandit.
Oh yeah. That was a terrible loss.
Well, Deliverance again. We were talking about
Deliverance,
that.
yeah, that's like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Makes
Makes you just want to learn the banjo.
Yeah, it makes you want to learn the banjo and squeal like a pig. But apparently, space is where it's at. I mean, people won't shut up about it.
Thanks, Elon.
Flat earthers deny it.
So you're saying
Flat earthers.
Wait, what do
don't
flat
wanna go to
earthers think
Mars?
it is though? Like
They just don't think it's real.
Oh,
What?
it's just
They just think it's a big mirror.
yeah, it's just a giant piece of felt that surrounds the Earth. This makes sense. Yeah.
Someone went to Joann's Fabric with a
We live in a
no limits
shoebox,
credit
yeah.
card.
I could make that
I
with
don't
my
know.
shotgun and some bird rounds, boy. I tell you what.
God. No, but there's all this like talk about like, oh, we're gonna be on Mars one day. We're
Yeah.
gonna be on the moon. And now
Yeah.
they're, recently NASA released a little information that they're gonna build structures on the moon using resources from the moon because it costs so much to
oh, dude, here it's gonna
Go down
happen.
back.
Dead Space, dude. I'm gonna be Isaac Clarke.
Yeah.
Dead Space
Woo!
is going to happen. We're closer to Dead Space. But they're going to use lunar dust, apparently, because like the dust on the moon is so jagged and metallic, they can mold it into buildings. And
And
Really
why?
useful.
Like, to what end? Are they just trying to beat the Chinese or what?
well, of course, it's going to be another space race. But
Space race.
I just hope it's going to be the point where the moon becomes better than the Earth, and then there's a war.
Hey,
And
didn't
then
they
the
do
moon?
Did they do like one of the? What was that old cartoon? What was it? They'd race in it. What was it? On Cartoon
That's what
Network.
I call pod racing.
Speed racer.
I think you're talking
No,
about
no.
the
Like a
second
bunch of
episode
there were a
Star
bunch of
Wars.
characters and shit. They like cartoon characters. They'd race, right? You'd have what was it?
F-Zero?
I feel. No, it was a
Wacky
cartoon.
Races.
I think. What was it?
Wacky Racers. That's what it was.
Wacky Racers. You're
Yeah.
right.
Didn't they do a space episode?
I think.
See, that's what I automatically think
I
when you
can't
say. When
remember
I
the
hear
show that
space
well.
race, I think of
Can't
Wacky Racers in space. Like, I just can't.
But the thing is, like, I don't know if it's that far fetched. They talk about it like it's such a possibility, and
Yeah.
that it's going to happen in our lifetime or the next lifetime. But I mean, really, it's just going to be another space race, and they're going to talk about a unified Earth on the moon, building buildings out of dust. I think it's going to go one of two ways. They're going to find aliens on the moon, and shit's going to happen. Spooky shit.
Yeah, the moon's going to be
I swear to
flat.
God.
Yeah, it makes
There's
sense.
gonna be skeletons on the moon.
There's going to be a skeleton on the moon with some
baby carrots on the
and
moon.
dust next to it.
Fucking like, no.
Is there like
God.
that guy who's like trying to send 6 artists to an orbit around the
Elon
moon?
Musk.
Perfect.
No, some other guy who fucking Elon stole the idea from. Some Chinese guy. Pretty sure.
Yeah, but apparently Elon is actually doing it.
Yeah. I mean,
Trying
Yeah,
to.
whatever.
I don't know why he's doing that right now. Because
anything to take away from the Tesla stock price, they're just fucking
No.
tanking. I don't know.
Anything to take away from that thing where he called that diver a pedophile.
Oh yeah, that too. Oh, speaking of Tesla, this actually bridges nicely into the second little bit of news. You know Ashton Kutcher?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's still alive.
Yeah, he's still alive, and he hit a person with his Tesla.
Did he?
Really?
Yeah, he hit a teenager.
Was it was
teenage boy?
well? What model was it? And
Uh,
was it on autopilot or whatever? 'Cause I know
Was it
they-
intentional?
I don't know. It was accidental, and everything's okay because he got out of the Tesla and took a picture with them.
Well, if there's one thing I've learned from the Kardashians, like, you know, you can just run people over. It doesn't. If you have celeb power, you can just run people over. It's fine. Nobody gives a
yeah.
fuck.
No, nobody cares about it at all.
Like
apparently.
from JoJo's.
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
part 2, and Dio just drives through a crowd of people.
Why do you have to reference an average anime? And I don't give a
Is that
fuck.
a
what anyone
JoJo
says.
It's
reference?
not an
Average
average anime. It's one of the
Average
best
anime.
animes.
Yeah, I like tarot cards. Huh? Yeah, cool, dude.
Hey, I also like.
Yeah, I
tarot
bet you do.
cards.
Yeah, I got the hangman and the priestess. You know what that means? I have to wait for the
Mm.
opportunity to strike, apparently, or I'll fuck myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Next
What a
on the
Yeah.
Magic the
Yeah.
Gathering podcast. we're gonna
Yeah,
talk
boy,
about
red decks. Book 'em out.
tapping your blue deck for
Oh,
multiplicity.
fuck. Give me your green deck. Show me your cool green deck.
No,
boy.
dude. It's got regen, dude. I just spawned more. Wow.
You got a
dude, it's
black
blue
lotus?
deck.
Ooh, wow. It's like
Are you
It's
guys
a-
talking about Pokemon?
Yeah, dude. You got to catch them all, and each card is worth like $7,000. So if you're
I
ever
have to
playing the
make an
kids in the
announcement.
playground, what?
I have never cared about Pokemon ever in my life.
A friend of mine actually still like does it. Like he literally goes downtown Toronto.
Oh,
and
me
stuff.
too. I have friends that
Yeah.
like.
Yeah,
go
but
Well, no,
they're
it's like
are
something
they-
to
okay.
do. Like I get it.
First
Like,
question: do they have a beard? Second question: are they adult man children?
no, I wouldn't say that. He's independent. He's I've known him for a long time. He doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. It's just something to do, right? Instead of like.
Yeah.
And I understand that, like, as opposed to those things, like, I mean,
I also look at Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, and all
Magic
that
Gathering.
stuff. I just don't.
Oh,
I don't.
Yeah, do you
understand
get
a lot of card
Warhammer?
games.
Yeah, you better get Warhammer.
Oh, here we go.
Joking, right?
Here's the thing. I have only seen like Warhammer stuff in those like game shops that open in strip
Workshop.
malls that are like
Game
dying.
Workshop, yes.
And there's always like one dimly lit game workshop place, and it has a big table full of like dudes all wearing the same gray like cardigan or fucking all drinking Sprite and playing Warhammer. And I was a little younger when I walked in. I didn't know what they were selling. I thought it was a game store. It's like, do you have board games? And they're like, no, we only have figurines for Warhammer.
Just like a
Warhammer sounds
figurine
cool.
fucking specialty shop where they just sell figurines and like miniature models.
Yeah, that's all
Well,
they had there.
Games Workshop is like that. That's what he's talking about. Like those stores
Yeah,
are
yeah.
dedicated to Warhammer and all the different franchises that they have, right? But
Yeah,
you
I
go in
wanted
there
to
and it's
go
like,
in and get a
Come,
board
little,
game.
come, little boy, come play tabletop miniatures with us. Roll your 12 dice. Do it.
They literally told me to go away because
Yeah, they do. They're
busy,
mean.
And I was a customer.
Yeah, they're mean. A lot of them are like.
I was like, this game is pretty cool. How much is it?
I had a
It's
really
not
bad
exactly-
experience when I first got into Warhammer because of that. Like I got into it when I was probably 16, 17, and because I was in high school and I was like, fuck it. Like I mean, it was better than Magic, so I was like, yo, I really liked it. It appealed to me. It had good illustration. So I got into it. I was like, oh, fucking look at my own models and I'll paint them. I was so fucking abrasive my first meeting with this fucking man-child chud baby fucking behind the counter.
Chud
Yeah,
baby.
it was just like he looked like such a mongoloid. I did not give a fuck. And he's like, oh, what are you here for? What are you looking for? I'm like, I'm looking for to get started in Warhammer. Like, oh, well, what faction do you want? This faction, this faction, and like just berates me. He's like, do you even know anything? Have you
Yeah.
read the codex yet? You should read the codex before you do anything. I'm like, bro, like just point me in the right direction. And fucking, he finally did. And like, I never went back to that same Games Workshop after that. I went back a couple years later. He was still there, I think 2 years later. And this is when I finally established like an actual, like a Grey Knight chapter for Space Marines. And he's like, oh, it's cool. You're still collecting. Like, I guess he might have remembered me. I don't know why, but and he was so fucking standoffish. It was just like, he's like, oh, so you finally decided, eh? You got Space Marines, blah blah blah. I'm like, well, Space Marines kind of fucking lame, blah blah. I'm like, what do you play? He's like, oh, Chaos. I'm like, yo, Chaos is the gayest of them all, right? And he's like, no, that's so cool, dude. Your God Emperor, dude, he's been dead for thousands of years. I'm like, dude, stop drooling. Like, calm down, dude. It's all right. Like,
But that's how you are now.
no, but I mean, I'm not. Yeah, you can't. Okay, look, you can't say that I'm like that to people. I'm like that about the lore because I like it. But when it comes to people like trying to get into it, I'm very nice about it. Like, I'm
Yeah, but
like,
when was the last time you actually played Warhammer?
maybe a month ago.
No shit.
Yeah, no, like
I
we
think
still do it.
it
Like
really
a friend of mine
boils
has
down
a
to-
whole thing. We go over there still.
See, like I tried going to our local. Like I needed dice because I was trying to set up a D&D game. I know.
Yeah.
Not Warhammer.
No,
but,
D&D's cool, man. I got no issue.
Yeah,
with
like
D&D.
and
D&D's funny.
yeah, like our local place has been in business for like 30 years, just selling comic books and dice, basically.
Mhm.
And they have a sign on the front of the door that says, like, essentially, if proper hygiene has not been followed, you will be escorted out. And I was like, wow, dude, if you have to post that on the outside of the building,
It's a bad
No,
sign.
but
not
you'd be
gonna play.
surprised. Like some of these people that get into like these franchises or like stuff along the same lines, like they're not really the most socially outgoing people. I mean, the great thing from Warhammer, which I've experienced, is like there are two different types. You have those types of people, and then you have the people that are really outgoing and love it and are passionate about it, and they'll shit talk or whatever, right? But at the end of the day, nobody gets mad. Everybody has a good time.
yeah,
You have a
I'm
couple
a
drinks and
sucker for a
enjoy it.
good DM that they're like, invites you and tries to get you.
I love
going.
that. I love
there's,
that, sitting there doing the character sheet. I used to actually enjoy D&D, but I just
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
do it
Yeah,
anymore.
I love D&D, but a lot of my friends don't like to play D&D.
Do you dress
with
up?
me.
Do you dress up when you
Really?
do it?
Why?
No.
Oh, that's the fun
It's
part.
my character I take with me. He is a
Greg,
suit
no.
of armor possessed by a ghost, and his name is Roadcar. And people hate playing with that character.
Why?
But I've been sticking with him. He's retarded, but he's incredibly violent and very charismatic and strong. And his whole thing, it's his own character. I've kept it up for years. As every time he kills someone, he takes a piece of them with him.
So he's like Ermac. So he's
full
Ermac from
human
Mortal
one
Kombat.
day.
Jesus.
Yeah. Okay.
He literally wants to be like a Frankenstein. He wants to put his
He's
soul into a real
Frankenstein.
human body. And every woman he kills, he collects the uterus or fetus of the woman. And then most men, he always takes the skull. So I've always had to get bigger bags to drag behind me that are filled with every single skull and fetus. And every time we go to a new town, everyone would get pissed at me because I would immediately go to the inn or ask where the inn is or a church. And I would meet the barkeep and talk to the barkeep and ask to go up to their room alone. And then every time the dungeon master, okay, roll charisma. I'd get a 24 every fucking time and take her up somewhere alone and then immediately cut them in half. Instantaneously.
Jesus.
And it always stemmed really horrible situations for everyone, but the special worst reason why people just kind of got fed up with it is when we would go and do a quest and finally get to a quest giver or the end of a quest, or you have to talk to a person that's going to give you something that you need for the rest of the quest. I will stay quiet and do nothing. I won't even attack people during fights. I'll let them hit me. And then I will break my silence as soon as we're talking to a random quest giver. As soon as they say something that sounds like it's important, I will roll an attack roll to decapitate them. And I will always get it right. And I will always get 24. I get really lucky, and I would just cut their head off and then put their head in my bag. And then the dungeon master is like, well, I guess it's time to go home. And everyone would be like, oh, fuck. And I have to go home, and the quest would be over.
See, I used to roll with a weighted D20 for I had Ook Strongmore or some shit. It was a dwarf that was raised by orcs in the woods who thought he was an orc and just hated fucking
That's
dwarves
good.
with a passion. And he'd just continuously basically be drunk through the whole thing. He's a master brewmaster, just dragging along kegs and then forcing asking other people in town if I can borrow their donkey so that I can bring the liquor with. It's it's good shit. Dude, that's the best thing too, is if you're going to play D&D, the most useful skill that I've ever found is throw anything. If you're going to play a monk, and then just bring a 60-foot piece of rope and pretty much using wizards, as a tool to throw.
Yeah.
Great fun. Absolutely the best. Throw anything is probably the best natural
I've
skill.
thrown the heads at people as weapons many times. And it's paid off. And man, I don't know, people just get real sad when they play with Roadcar. But Roadcar's origin story is retarded. It makes no sense. Because it said, I was created in a laboratory, and when I killed my master and broke out, I saw a road, and then I saw a car. But it's Dungeons and Dragons, so I couldn't have possibly seen a car.
Dude, it was a vision.
So-
You can have it in a vision. Yeah, I'd let that shit slide.
Yeah. It's kind of like, people did you see a vision? Or are you from a different time?
So you basically created Ermac.
That's
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ermac is basically your character.
That's
I remember
fucking.
I managed to get everyone to visualize me riding a human being like a snowboard out of a window of an inn with my foot locked into their butthole like it was a footlock on a snowboard. And I very much so made a point of describing that I placed my foot inside their dead body's rectum and slid on the tiled roof to escape the guards that were coming to arrest me. And then I fucked up, and then I landed on the body, and the body exploded, and then I fell on the ground and got arrested.
Dude, that sounds fucking.
That was the last time Road Car was out.
I think
like, have you guys done any DMing? Like, when was your last fucking retarded DM campaign?
I haven't. I don't know what I'm.
my friend
doing
banned
with
me
Road
actually
Car.
from one of his.
Yeah, I got banned too,
Yeah.
but that's just because usually it.
Well, he banned me because I was a necromancer, and then at one point somebody died, and I resurrected them. An undead, and they didn't like that, and I kept using his body to do dumb shit. Like I keep rolling points for it, and I was like, oh, it got really out of
See,
hand.
that's cool.
No,
That's cool.
some people
This
can
is
take it, some
not-
people can't. You know. And I
This is
get it.
not a chaotic evil campaign. You
Yeah,
cannot play
you
chaotic
can't.
evil. This is not a chaotic evil campaign. Get out. Like, dude, I've had
People
yeah.
get mad.
You can't
They
get
do.
Bashir to give you
They do.
fellatio. It doesn't work.
Oh. Dude, yeah, that's the thing. Intimidation is the most useful skill. Like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
fucking
I use that
intimidation.
a lot.
Oh god. Yeah.
Great.
The dungeon master would combat it a lot by, if I ever
Yeah,
tried
yeah.
to do intimidation, they would just like always make the person go like, "Why did you do that? You seem like you have mental problems." Treat me like a
classic.
retard.
Well, I
Yeah.
can understand that if you're a DM and you're wasting all that time on a scenario, and then this one
Oh,
guy
dude, but
comes
it's-
along.
That's where the best shit is. Like
Yeah.
coming up with retarded items, like the sword of Skrillex. I was DMing one thing, and I like literally I had them find a sword that had like the best stats, like just plus 15 to everything, and then I just would play Skrillex in the background until they ended up throwing it down a well. Like you softly hear the sound of Skrillex disappear. The sword of Skrillex, never forget. Like just coming up with
Oh my
stupid items.
God.
Like there was one green text I read. I'm a sucker for DM green text stories of like the classic. You find a ring, you put it on your finger, it makes your finger disappear. You peer through it, you see that it's like a library somewhere, and like somebody throws the ring in the ocean. And as they're exiting the local continent, they see that there's this flooded elvish tower that is just overrun with water pouring out the top of it. That type of shit, like just stupid item spells. Always a good time.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I wanted to implement this idea I had for Road Car and make him a walking pinata for when he would ever get destroyed or died.
It's a candy.
And, literally every quest item or thing I've collected, I've seen as powerful or valuable, I would put into my body,
Oh Jesus!
like because I
that's
was
great.
hollow.
So yeah,
So I would never get to use said items. I would just be putting them in my mouth hole in my suit of armor, and it would just go ding 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 and fall at the bottom of my suit of armor,
dude,
including a couple skulls.
that's great. Like I had a guy who got a bottomless bag and ended up like putting livestock in it and then just jamming it up his ass. So like we'd be in the middle of battle and he'd just unveil like 10 goats and he'd be like, attack, like telling the goats to attack. They don't do shit. Like just like, dude, we should really get some D&D going. Holy fuck. Like,
Goat looks
Oh, man.
confused.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Confused.
Roll charisma. Like,
Imagine if the dungeon master could really turn that around and go
Mhm.
like, "Oh, you fucked up. It grew inside of your butthole and you died."
I
Like,
I remember one time I got an item, which was I think a goblin horn or something, so it would like summon like lower tier goblins,
Mhm.
and fucking I did it in the town, and it went sideways really quickly. Like that's how I got banned more or less. It was like that was like the leading up to after I resurrected a fallen like ally. Then I fucking went to the
Mhm.
town, summoned like I think 10 goblins, and I went into the inn and I fucking like massacred everybody in the fucking.
yeah, you
inn.
obviously were just done.
Yeah.
You were getting to the point where it was like you're playing Skyrim and you kill every NPC. in
Yeah,
every
right?
town.
Yeah,
dude, the
like-
classic fucking Skyrim and or fucking
That's how Road
Morrowind.
Car was.
Yo, I had an item. I had an item. It was called Grandpa's Good Tooth. It was so stupid. I would do so many dumb things. Like,
Dude, that's the thing is like getting.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
fun.
getting kicked out of a D&D game by a DM is honestly like a rite of
The funny-
passage. As
yeah,
far
it's
as like
the
that means you're
funniest thing.
playing correctly. Like you're doing something.
yeah, he
correct.
can't. He
Like,
can't get you on anything else. He has to like. It's like so stupid. He's just getting mad. Like it's just like
Yeah.
absurd.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We all have fun with those role playing games, but
Why do you always
I
have
think
to do
our
that when you
last little bit of-
transition? Stop doing that.
I can't help it.
Like you don't have to go on in.
Coming up
Yeah,
next on
let's
this-
talk about something else.
on
Like
the Derailed
Yeah, because I
podcast.
want to move on because time is of
utmost
fleeting
importance.
Who doesn't love good D&D stories? Come on.
Oh yeah, no, that was good.
I
That was
do,
good stuff.
I do, and I would love to talk about them all day. But I just want to bring up the last little bit of news,
What?
so we can move on to our main topic.
I-
And we can always come back to it. Is that the PlayStation announced that they're coming out with this new PlayStation Classic?
Mhm.
Have you seen that?
No, like what is
No.
it?
Is it
like
as
the
bad
old
as the PS4
PS1?
Pro?
No, it is PlayStation Classic. It is like a little tiny.
Oh, it's like
almost
the
a little
Nintendo
bigger
shit.
than a.
Yeah,
It's
same shit
it's
that Nintendo
Literally,
did.
yeah.
Yeah.
It just it comes preloaded with like I don't know how many, like 20 games. I think you're probably gonna be able to download more. You plug it in, play it.
Is it twisted
Comes with
metal
the
on it?
classic PlayStation remotes.
Yeah, but I can emulate that way better.
Yeah,
you
you can
know?
just do it on my computer.
Yeah, I know. See, like emulation is always such a possible thing, and I just kind of see it as like, man, are they gonna let you download any PlayStation game?
Yeah, dude. I mean, you can
Carnival?
emulate PS3 at this point. Like I was playing Demon Souls the other day. Like, cause it's like I can't get a PS3 that is functioning that won't burn out in less than like I bought like 3
You can
PS3s.
have mine.
No, they constantly burn out. Like it's something to do with just how their power supply works. I think like that just after a
Yeah.
certain amount of time the transformer goes, and it
Can't you?
it's like
can
it's
you,
like right
can't
when
you
the
replace the PS unit? Like, is that possible?
no, it's like the internal stuff, like the
Oh.
caps, caps and transformer inside. And that's the thing too, is like a lot of those, like the second gen PS3s were made, like the last, the available ones were made during that tsunami shit when hard drives skyrocketed in price and stuff. And so
Oh,
like
yeah.
a lot of those, capacitor death is a common shit for.
Oh, was that
PS3s.
in 2012 with like that when the nuclear
Yeah.
reactor went off and shit too?
Yeah. Well, right
Oh,
before that.
yeah,
Yeah, like the year
yeah.
before, 2011, 2010. Yeah. There's
Yeah,
tsunamis
I
and
want to go. Okay, speaking about that, I'm sorry to change the subject like this,
Hmm.
but I want to go to that Fallout area because you can actually like tour through it.
Why?
and it's still super fucking high on radiation, but you're able to go through it. And it's like 3 ghost towns, and you can go right through it. It's crazy. I want to do it. I don't really give a fuck.
Which area?
I can't remember what cities there were. There were like 3
Fukushima?
cities.
Are you talking about the tsunami?
No,
Yeah,
when the
tsunami was the
tsunami
reactor.
happened, it fucked up a nuclear reactor. The nuclear
Oh, yeah,
reactor
in
went.
Fukushima.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Coming
Yeah.
up next on Vice.
But
we
no,
go
it
to
wasn't-
Fukushima to
it wasn't
shoot
Fukushima.
wolves.
It was the outside area where the towns
Yeah.
were, right? Like Fukushima was
Mhm.
fucked.
Yeah.
Like outside of that, the cities were still there, and the fallout clouds literally fucking just raped the whole area. But you can go through there because it's not certain areas aren't as high anymore, but they still get crazy high readings, like 20 or 22 point something, which is way too high. And I really want to do
Yeah,
it.
they're just.
I guess
ghost towns.
transitioning to what
Yeah.
the fuck Japan. Do you think Japan is the way it is because of the amount of like radiation that they've been exposed to?
I feel like
You
it's
just
just
wonder.
it's a culture. That's all it
No.
is. It's just a culture. It's just the way it is.
Mm.
It's different from like say Western society to East. It's completely different. Just all. And
Yeah,
it's-
well, I'm all for it.
Um,
Yeah, like that's not. I'm more so just. I don't know.
In a lot of ways, Japan's like people look at pop culture in Japan and go, "Oh, what the fuck is fucking weird?"
no, they have
well,
their own
it's not.
variations.
It's not
of it. I
that. I'm
don't
saying I'm
know.
more so talking like their birth versus death rate, like where their whole concept
Well,
of
oh.
marriage has been.
Well, they don't even
destroyed
keep
by-
track of. They don't
There's a
even keep
lot
track
of
of
things that
suicide
apply to
rate.
that.
Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things over there that they don't do.
Yeah.
right?
So I mean, it's like
They
I
have
don't.
a very,
I'd like to buy.
very.
Sorry.
It's in combination of very. They don't handle mental illness well. They don't treat mental illness very well. They still have a lot of stigma towards it. They have a very intense and unhealthy work ethic.
Yeah, that's
some
what I
see it
mean.
as incredibly
Point, Matt.
productive.
Yeah,
It
working those
also
70-hour
stems
weeks.
to 70
Amen, brother.
weeks plus. Sexism in the workplace, the shift of women becoming more successful, still having titles of their jobs be like office lady instead of a businessman or
Jesus.
businesswoman. You call them an office lady. They still get called that kind of stuff in even though they'll be making
Yeah,
the same
but as I said,
much
it's a different
money.
culture.
Yeah.
It's a different culture.
Different cultural, but
Yeah.
as well as you view if you look at something ethnocentrically and have a upset, like weeaboos love Japan, go, oh my god, like I had this one girl talking to me, it's like, I want to move to Japan, women are so empowered there, blah, 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 blah,
Oh,
blah, blah.
God.
Oh my god, shut up. You fucking idiot. Go there. See what happens. Not only are you going to deal with racism, you're also going to deal with sexism. And they're going to
it's like twofold. Like,
make
good luck getting your family to move there. Or
you fucking gaijin. Get out, gaijin.
Yeah.
A gaijin. Ooh, there's going to be black vans funded by the Yakuza and right-wing nationalists chasing you down as you leave 7-Eleven to print your return home forms from a printer and inside of a convenience store, being chased with a megaphone calling, American Pigu, make a Pigu.
See, and I would love I love the rationalization of it's a different culture and all that shit and idolizing the most xenophobic.
No, I'm just saying it's a
Earth.
different
But,
culture
like,
because that's
dude,
what it is.
I don't know if you've ever read about Unit 731, like the shit that they did in World War II. Like, because that's the thing is like I would love to rationalize that away, but like intentionally infecting people with smallpox and every single known disease, just injecting people with mercury, like them eating U.S. troops. Like I could go down the list of everything on Unit 731, and you could rationalize that as culture. But I'm just saying, like,
you can still
culture, man.
It's kind of fucked. Like there has to be some.
But you can look at things like that. I'm like, well, then Germany did fucked up shit. A lot of America's done fucked up shit. Everyone is guilty, and everyone is evil. And but we can talk more about this in the main subject.
Yeah,
but
hey, not to derail it completely though.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
I'm
are you
not
still
gonna
talking about
completely
Japan?
derail it.
Oh,
But with Japan though, a lot of people also look at like, things are so over sexualized, blah 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 blah. Well, that also stems to that they were incredibly like from the Edo and Nara period.
Yeah,
it was like incredibly restrictive. Like sex was a thing they just did not talk about.
Yeah,
it was not. It was the thing was very much so. It was either hazakashi, embarrassing, disgusting, gross, and then like in the 80s it exploded, and nightclubs and red light districts became red light districts again, and of course Western culture very much so impeded upon the adult entertainment. More so in Korea, you see like Korea is like so westernized. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Well, they've been a little like having to rebuild and whatnot. I think is part of that. That's the other thing too. Is like,
that too.
Like the thing I'd throw too is the whole like I don't know if you've ever like read into the history of the Yakuza and like how the triads came into power and like how they outlawed gambling and like how like the lowest caste is capable of handling this, but they can't carry swords to actually uphold stuff. I don't know. It's kind of interesting that there was literally no like they used to have like in the 50s and stuff. They would have Yakuza like until like 1992. They would have Yakuza Koreans come in and bully people at corporate CEO meetings to ensure that like during board meetings they'd bring people in as like muscle and be like, get the fuck out, like you're gonna vote.
Or even to this day, most corporations oversee that do trade through Malaysia and Singapore and China. A lot of those corporations still controlled by Yakuza, still controlled by Triad.
Nintendo.
I mean, I was even in my dad traveled to China a lot for business, and I remember being in San Francisco, and we were walking around, and we were gonna get dinner somewhere, and we saw this dim sum place, and my dad like recognized me. He's like, "Can't go in there. That place is run by the Triad. We can't go in there." Really? And I was like, "Oh, okay, shit, all right."
So that's the thing you figure. Like that's the thing I constantly think about as far as like how long has the Asian triads, like even the Chinese mafia, has existed for over 1,000 years. Like you figure like there's. Without any kind of repercussions whatsoever. It's kind of a fascinating, like, if organized crime had gotten off the ground here, like it has to some degree, but.
Yeah, because a bunch of dumb Italians.
Yeah. It's like, like even RICO laws and shit, but you figure like literally the Yakuza operated until like 1992 without even a single law impeding them. Like there was cultural norms and stuff, but just.
They were just seen as like a nationalist organization.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, it's just the Tea Party, dude. Don't worry, it's fine. Like, we're just bringing in some Tea Party members to have you vote correctly for the CEO vote here. Like,
and a lot of like Italian and Irish mafias in America were all very much so just small time drugs, small time.
It's almost small time.
Even the IRA wouldn't even touch heroin until early 2000s. Like the IRA had, at least the old IRA had a really
they ran guns. They ran guns.
Yeah. Well, but for a reason. Like there was some kind of, it was like you could say it was a nationalist.
What they could do.
Well, that and then selling the knowledge of like basic explosives was like the key too. Like I mean, around to how many fucking Middle Eastern fucking terrorist cells.
No, but back on what we were talking about with Japan and Prazos, you were saying like the towns you want to go through. I think to this day, And the radiation, I think, for a good couple of years was growing in its impact in the area through soil and water contamination.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like most areas you can go to are like Motomia and like, I don't know, it goes pretty far out. I mean, depending on like tours, I don't know if they still. Oh, that was it. Do
you get a full rad suit?
remember.
That's the question. Like, do you get
No, you don't.
lead
I
based?
think you just have to
You
wear
get a meter.
a
That's
suit
it.
to keep dust from
Yeah,
getting.
you got to
so
wear a dust
respirator.
mask because if the dust is highly radioactive still.
Interesting.
It would do more damage to you inside of your body.
Yeah,
than
yeah.
outside
Fuck
of
yeah.
it.
Yeah, well, that's the magic of alpha
Kawauchi.
beta. Like alpha beta radiation, like gamma is
Yeah.
bad, but alpha beta is like you have to be pretty close for that shit to alpha decay really bad. Like,
Well, like the worst places like Namai, Futaba, Okuma, and that's like all on the coast, and that place is like fucked. I mean, you can't even imagine. But it was a huge chunk of land. People just go, "Oh, this is Fukushima, just like northern of Tokyo prefecture area. Who cares? They'll, it sucks for them. They'll recover." But I've been, I don't think they're still in very much so a lack of recovery.
well, you
from
think
it.
in terms too of like the most compact living spaces and virtually.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chinese are doing it now, but even southern China or northern China, you still had large farmland periods for rice paddies and food production and stuff. And in Japan,
Those were all like farmlands as well.
yeah, that's what I mean. It's like
that
even
whole area was all
even a Japanese
beef and
farm
rice
is
production.
yeah, like it's
Yeah.
pretty tiny in comparison
Buckwheat.
to what we have here as far as space conservation and stuff. Like you've seen, like I don't know, I've looked into it just for like hopeless dreams. Like, oh, let's go to Japan and become a farmer because that's the thing that they're always hiring for. Like it's like Australia.
Yeah.
Like they'll always allow you in to be a sheep farmer in New Zealand because they can't get enough
Yeah.
of the regular citizens to actually forsake in farming. But yeah, just
Yeah, places are still bad, but considering Fukushima is in the blue, that's like it's in like 1.0 on the
It's
scale.
not though. It's
going
not.
up to.
No, it's not. People.
I mean, it's
people
still
say
real
that
bad.
it's bullshit what the government's putting out. It literally there's videos
Yeah.
of tourist groups going through there where it's like at a dangerous level.
It's really bad. it's.
I just don't want to
and
go
mean,
there. though,
Considering
so-
how far it is from the actual Futaba location. But I mean, I think you can go on tours on Sukagawa and.
But that's the thing I'd
Shirakawa.
wonder is like you'd have to eat and drink before you went. Like you couldn't get.
No. There's
I
a
assume you couldn't drink
restaurant
liquid.
there through the tour. All right.
Yeah.
And it's-
Oh yeah, but
there's
you're gonna drink the
people-
water. Like
No, I assume it's
No,
not
it's all
all
bottled.
from.
yeah, you're
like,
gonna drink a water bottle that's been
There's people
sitting
that
out
live-
in the dust.
There's
or-
people that
there's
still
still
live
people
there.
that
There's
live
people that
there.
move back. Like
Mhm.
like it's crazy.
yeah, but
Well, because there was huge neglect of farm animals and
yeah, people still lived in
a lot of
Nagasaki
property.
after and look at the results. Like,
well, there was the fallout of that is much different though.
well, yeah, but I mean, like, there's still people who stayed in the area that got long-term major cancer issues as a result. Not necessarily directly impacted, but in the surrounding like
Yeah.
50 to 60 mile radius. Like there was still.
you go there today, you never know.
Yeah, it's like
No,
where
you
are you
would
going to
never
go that
know.
there's space? That's my question.
Exactly. And that causes a lot of displacement, and a little land goes a long way. But I think this is a good time to move into the main subject of the episode, which is the world too violent? And which we kind of already start talking about. You mentioned with Unit 731.
Hang on. I don't want to continue on the topic just yet. I'm curious to what that feedback was earlier. You still haven't told me.
Oh,
Yeah.
you want to talk? Okay, before we move on to the topic, we got some feedback on the podcast to our email, and the feedback was
As he buys time to pull it up.
no. So loving the talk show. You guys swear too much.
Fuck.
Is that all? That was it? That was.
That's it?
And actually, I have another one, and it also relates to the same subject.
Have you been you've been shit posting on our fucking comments, haven't you, House?
No,
I got one
haven't.
comment on YouTube.
And-
It says epic.
Epic. We
No,
got
no,
someone said
epic.
Epic.
Yeah,
Ab-
to all the
Really?
listeners, we swear
And-
like sailors. This is the unadulterated, unfiltered. Like, you could hear a beep, but honestly, this is the joys of the internet. Is it's not a censored place. And
Well,
I can say
And the other
fuck.
one, was from my mother.
What's it?
Really?
Listen to it.
Did she?
Yeah.
Oh,
She
that's-
found it on Facebook.
I'm already
she
sorry.
listened to it and she's like, "Mama no like too much swearing." So I got two feedbacks.
So literally, your mom is telling us to stop
Swearing,
dropping
yeah.
so many
You know,
f-bombs.
stop swearing so much. Says
No.
my mom, and then also a random person, also in broken English, said swear too much.
No.
But okay,
Fuck
look,
that.
no. But the thing is, though, the reason we swear so much is just because I'd say they're sentence enhancers. You know, like we're really passionate about the subject, so we got.
And we're lazy.
Yeah, well, that and
Well, I haven't contained even the filter for that shit for so long. Like there
Well,
used to
I
be
want-
a time
I want
long
more
ago that I
feedback.
could pull customer service, but
yeah.
no, like I don't give a fuck. Like I don't like you can fuck off. I'm sorry. I love you, House's mom, but I swear
just
like a
told us
sailor.
not
Like
to fuck off, dude.
no,
Jesus.
gently,
All right.
What
gently.
the hell?
You know, for that particular
Man,
topic.
That's
fucking
rude.
sharp.
That is
Well,
God
sure.
damn. Where do you draw your line?
she's probably a
fan of
saint.
the show
You
to
know, like
fuck
she's a
off.
saint, and I appreciate her listening.
I told her I've heard her swear. And she's like, "No, you never heard me
No,
swear."
look. To House's mom, I don't swear this much normally in like my real life day to day type thing. Even even in front of my parents.
I swear more.
I know
much
I have
more.
no I have a better I have a better vernacular usually than this, but I don't. I mean, when I'm just talking with friends, I'm gonna swear a bit because it's just it's just the way it is. I'm more comfortable, so it's like I can relax a little bit. So I'm gonna use a little bit of a swear word.
Let your hair
cuss.
down. You know?
Yeah, let my hair down. I cuss a little bit.
I had to like go like, Mom, I've heard you use a curse word before. And she's like, "No, never sworn in my life."
God, my parents
blah,
swore
blah,
a
blah.
whole.
Well,
whole
you
lot.
Yeah.
you
Insane.
obviously have, and you've obviously heard it, and you've used it in your life.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, tell me what." And I just started listing off holidays, family events. I was like, "I've heard you swear this day. I've heard you fart on Easter."
How dare
Is
you
there-
fart?
is there a
How
law
dare
against
you
that?
fart
Yeah.
when Jesus was resurrected?
Yeah, you're gonna tell us we swear too much. I'm gonna tell everyone you farted. There you go.
I mean, really.
But
What's
also,
too much? I mean, really.
Here's a good example. A very specific time I remember my mom swearing. It's when I had a girl over, and this is a long time ago, and I wasn't dating this girl. She just liked me, I guess, and she was from like out of town, and she was staying the night. And I was under this notion we were going to hang out with this other friend of mine, and have 3 people together, not just 2. And she was very avidly hitting on me, and she wanted to go skinny dipping and all this weird shit.
Is this a story
And I was
about
like,
how your
no.
mom cockblocked you?
No,
Oh, okay.
God,
I
tell
didn't.
me about it.
But
Right?
I did not want this. I did not want. I almost didn't even want her being around because I was just her friend, and it was just felt way too weird that she was staying the night. And I remember we finally started hanging out normally after I was just every time she's like, "I want to go skinny dipping. I want to go do this, blah blah blah." Or you gonna sleep with me? I'm like, nope. And I went up to my room and locked my door. And I was like, hell no, not sleeping with you. And then the next day, we were watching. We ended up getting. Our friends said they couldn't make it out, and we weren't gonna go to the city anymore. And and I also had people coming over to practice music, and I was like, I gotta get this lady out of my house. So we were just watching Biodome. I put on Biodome.
Great
Just watching
choice.
it with them.
Brilliant Pauly Shore.
And then,
movie, yeah.
And then I go upstairs while I'm, just going upstairs, God, I gotta figure out how to get this girl out of this house. And my mom comes up to me. He's like, "So, how are things down there? Having an all-night fuck fest?" And I have never been so oh,
no.
How Haus came out to his
Absolutely
mom
not.
like, oh shit.
Okay, you know what? This
It's
is a
actually
good
sore.
subject. We should see this for another podcast because we got to get back. We got to
Wait,
get to the
how
main
your mom
subject
cut
at hand.
how you got fucking cockblocked by your parents on
It's
multiple
happened.
occasions?
It's
Yeah,
happened.
no shit.
Yeah, it's happened to
that
me.
wasn't a cock block. If anything, she was trying to help me.
Yeah, she's like offering you condoms.
No, if anything, she thought the cocking already happened.
The cock happened.
It was happening.
She's just
all
bringing you
night
morning
long.
after pills and eggs. Yeah, great.
Oh God, I can't even talk about like that's a whole other subject.
All right,
That's a whole other
let's change it.
fucking thing. I don't want to talk about it.
We gotta
We're gonna
finish
blow the
fucking-
load, guys. We gotta save the content for later. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, we were talking about is the world too violent? We already kind of started going into it while we were still talking about some news stuff.
Yeah.
Quickly detached from talking about the new stupid PlayStation.
This is the interesting thing. If you actually look at the quantity of violent crime, as the standard of living goes up, the number of violent crime seems to go down. At least reported violent crime seems to go down. And like I would argue that as violence has kind of transitioned to TV and then access on the internet and stuff, that probably satiates some portion of where otherwise you would have, you can track the spread of high-speed internet access and pornography to a decrease in the number of rapes almost universally across, like as a state gets high-speed internet, shit goes down. I would argue the same for
and a
access
high
to violence.
Sale
yeah.
of Kleenex sales.
Yeah, maybe. Like, I don't know about that, but I can't quote.
Where do people put their loads?
Probably
In
in
my
the cum
sock!
bag. Yeah, check House's.
No.
House's mom, if you're listening, check his socks. Find one that's crusty.
They
I
stiff.
don't come
Just
into
email
socks.
it to us real quick.
I just
email-
want.
I do
yeah.
what a smart man did on a Reddit board.
Put it in a jar?
He would open his desk drawer and
Oh.
jizz into it for every day.
I knew a guy who was he's kind of schizophrenic, and he used to like see earwigs all the time, and he jacked off in the same 1 foot by 1 foot. Like he had like a blocker that he would just jack off in the same place on the floor until the carpet turned black after like 7 years, and then he just started a new grid pattern. He was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna make a black and white checker pattern on the
God.
carpet."
Yeah. Same story. This guy
Jesus.
wasn't jerking off though. He was pooping in his computer. Rest in peace, Nux. Miss you.
Dude, never forget Nux.
Oh,
Shout out
nuts,
Nux.
chat. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to meet him without even really knowing him, and then I remembered who he was after I met him. And he was in a cage in a video game telling us to poop, and we were telling him to poop himself. And we were chanting and banging on our desks to make a poo-poo till he logged off, and now he's dead. Rest in peace,
Never
Nux.
forget Nux. Shout
Well,
out to Nux.
you shouldn't say it that way because I feel like ending it that way is a little dry. But like, Nux is a cool guy, man. He had his own issues. He was entertaining, a nice guy, but
Yeah,
shit happens.
smart guy.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
I liked his Subway reviews.
Yeah, he had some funny videos.
Dude, sandwich reviews always a
Yeah,
good one.
there you hear him smacking his lip like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
It's like intentionally doing it,
yeah.
hamming it up. Dude was an actor.
He was actually
Boy.
it was really hard for him, or really hard for a person to pick up on when he was being sarcastic.
Yeah.
He's good at it.
Baby
Yeah,
Carrots
dude.
is based upon him.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can look at internet access contributing to pornography, and pornography contributing to a stifling drop in rape.
What
But
in the fuck are you guys talking about? Look, the
No, that's a real
world-
statistic. Like you can literally track as high speed internet becomes available.
Yeah,
Like,
but you're
digits,
talking about
the
jack
facts,
off
the
ratio to
numbers.
rapes. Like, I get it. I
yeah,
understand
but
what
I'm
you're
saying
trying
like,
to-
yeah, you wouldn't argue
But
that
I'm talking
the
about
fucking
violence. Like, I'm
lunatics.
talking about
that-
straight violence.
yeah, the people who go on
Alright, well,
Live
with
Leak and watch
violence-
fucking beheading videos of ISIS videos. You're telling me that like you're not. There's not some satiated serial killer out there who's getting his rocks off.
Well, look, I would say I'm a violent person, just in the sense because I have no.
whoa, hot take.
Okay.
Let it be known.
Oh
He's
no!
admitted.
No, I have a temper.
Any police?
I have a temper.
Who? Well, yeah, I'm not
I
talking.
have a
I'm not talking
Like
temper. I'm saying
a
like
violent temper.
people who would are otherwise not find an outlet. It's just like gang stalking. Like it's in the same vein of like
Yeah.
before the internet, like these people would just be medicated and schizophrenic, whereas now they have a support group for other people to validate their crazy ideas, and that's the same kind of.
Yeah, but I
or-
mean, like, who are we to like even like me personally? I don't want to weigh on that because it's like, okay, it's a community, yeah, and they're probably like it's perpetuating a really negative idea. But we're talking about as the topic pertains here. Has the world gotten too violent? Me personally, I don't think it has. I think it's gotten less violent over the years.
Yeah, it
That's just
has.
me.
Like
Compare
Oh, yeah.
you compare from
It's like-
1920 to 1960. Yeah, major drop.
Well, that's like largely linked for at least developing countries for the standard of living going up. That's a good.
Yeah, like
mark
we don't
to
live in
tell.
Africa, and we don't still believe in female circumcision. So, like as I said, yes,
Yeah.
it's
But that's the other thing too, is like, does it seem overrepresented because of the easy access to high speed videos of violence? And that seems to be a common.
I'm not gonna go watch a video of somebody being heady. I'm like, oh fuck, man, that's a good idea. Let me get out there and go do it. Like, no, that's not how it works.
No, but there are people who do that.
Yeah,
and
but those
then-
people are not
Besides
clinically
that-
healthy.
Besides that statistic or that claim, can that, the internet, blah, 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 contribute to this? But then also in third world countries, is the misplacement of fecal matter and poop contributing to violence?
here we
in
go.
any way?
There we fucking go.
No,
Listen.
no. You are
Listen,
touching a
where-
very
if there's
dangerous
too much
line, my
poop
friend.
everywhere,
Listen,
people are pretty
you
violent.
don't want to be touching on this. You are very
No,
disrespectful.
where proper education and like mental health is an issue, those are the places where the violence is
way
high.
better.
Oh yeah, my god, way better. He said,
It's way better.
how's it way better?
Define
Way
better.
better. Well,
is there less of it, or is there just less being
We're
reported?
not
or-
trepidizing people with mental illness because we
No,
think
but
there's
like,
a demon in their
what
skull.
Google is saying, he's saying like the internet now facilitates people with that mental.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying like that the internet provides an outlet for people to maybe get satiated
No,
on
I don't
violent
believe-
instincts
I don't
without
believe that. I
necessarily
just-
partaking in it.
I
disagree
don't
with
think
that.
I really
disagree
agree
with
with that.
completely.
Because
honestly.
I think a real, like, more fucked up person would be like, this is a place where I could post it so people could see it.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
there's,
there was the
there
same thing
is
with what?
glamour portion, like
What,
like
two
that, but,
guys, one
like,
ice
that's-
pick? Remember that thing?
yeah, but there's
Yeah.
there's a certain like that's the thing is like you're probably seeing an overrepresentation of violent acts being circulated
Yeah.
at a higher rate than you would before. Like previously, like gore was not something that was easily accessible in HD. Like now it is, and that's
but
like
then
our
that,
argument.
that contributes to desensitizing people.
Yeah, definitely. And I would argue too that I'd ask too is like, are there like the level of premeditated serial killers seems to go down, whereas like premeditated as far as like killing somebody, waiting 3 months and then killing somebody else, as opposed to doing it all at once type of thing. There definitely seems to be a rise in the number of public shootings, but
Yeah.
can like on a whole, did those things still exist before? Just in like, did you still have violent crimes and like the standard of living
Yeah.
has gone down in certain places significantly. The standard of education has gone down. Access to mental health after Obamacare and whatnot. Like it is much harder for people to afford health care. Skyrocketing in exponential costs.
Well, I think that comes hand in hand with whenever there is less understanding and less treatment available, and people seeking treatment or having the knowledge that there is treatment available, it leaves a lot of mental illness to run rampant on most people, themselves and their families. And then a lot of it is things are handled so poorly in the most negative direction. I mean, in schools with bullying, with there's also stigmatized mentality that mental illness is weakness and blah blah blah. Teaching, if it's not, it's not just the mental disability's fault, and it's not the person's fault. It has to be the fault of the family, and then they take attention to the family and bring more stress.
If
As a personal experience, I've seen that they always usually, like in a school setting, for example, they always like to target they always look that way. They want to take it as fast as they can to DCFS. They want to, say, oh, the children is depressed because their mom has a glass of wine every night. And then, all of a sudden the cops show up and then the school gets so involved in the wrong ways in the wrong areas. And they put, it's like a busy idiot. They're doing too
and
much
there
with the
certainly
wrong
is that,
shit.
but there's a hypersensitivity because of that overrepresentation. One,
Mhm.
two, look at like autism rates. Not to pick on autistic people, but if you look at autism rates and the skyrocketing ratio of that, one of the things they did in
Yeah.
Japan is in 1998, they made vaccinations optional as a means to see if people could, if they could, because they saw the rising rates in autism.
Yeah.
And like they made absolutely no difference. But the only thing that people could really find as far as a correlative for the increase in autism rate has to do with or the treatment of pesticides on organic food. And I would argue that given the rate of autism rate, that means your average IQ is like, for the first time in for 10 years consecutively, every decade for the past 4 decades, 5 decades, is like the average IQ has gone up 7 points. And this is the first year in the testing, or the first time in a decade, that the average IQ has gone down 7 points as a result of what I would say.
I remember I think it was a few years ago, and then the statistics were going the past 11 years, from 2000 and I think 12 or 13. It was like a study that was going on for 10 years. It was the 11th year of that study.
Mm-hmm.
Autism and mental illness percentage-wise of growth was up 110%, and it was increasing 10% every 2 years.
And that's one of the other interesting things is when Reagan defunded a large, like at least in this area, like we had a lot of we had 3 major mental health facilities, and essentially they defunded them and they closed them down, and we have
that was
and like essentially what happened to all these schizophrenic, autism, like all these people went out into the world and had children. And that is one of the products that you're seeing as far as like the mental health issues increasing. It's like
that and homeless.
Yeah, it's like
culture.
One of the things like
but there was a spike in homeless like after the Vietnam War because everybody came back as heroin addicts.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's
And that's the other PTSD. There's a whole range of mental health issues that were rarely even identified before the 90s.
I feel like you guys are kind of off a little bit here because we're still trying to talk about violence and what you're.
No, but
but mental health and violence.
No, it does. But I mean, like,
violence go hand in
hand.
You
can't. But the thing is, sometimes you can't even like. You can't like. There's no way to actually possibly. Like, this is like an extreme case. I mean, again, don't take this as what it is. But it's an example. So there's no way to really tell the traits of a psychopath because they can fake empathy more or less. They don't have to.
No, you can do it with no. That's not true. Like you can perform a hair test while they're taking an EKG. Yeah. Like you can definitely determine that shit by brain. Like you can do it with brain scans live by asking them questions.
Yeah, but you wouldn't notice it until like. What is it? I don't think it's early.
The issue is not with violent psychopaths. They're very easy to detect because they have a hard time resisting their urges and impulse control.
Violent.
It's the non-violent psychopaths that you should worry about because those are the truly dangerous ones that the chances of them actually getting into a psychiatrist's office where they could do that kind of testing outside of the judicial system is never going to happen. And now with the drop in accessibility to any kind of mental health treatment on top of take the wonderful Reagan area of all these mentally disturbed people having children, and they have proven too that if your parents had PTSD, like if your father had PTSD, it actually changes the genetic code of it's one of the newer fields in genomics as far as like it can actually influence the genetics so where you have a higher propensity to depression or whatever particular mental ailments you had if it happened before you were born. They have a lot of longitudinal studies for that too. So that's the other thing I would argue is like people who are predominantly violent, like if you look at birth rates and the number of the amount of fucking that people are doing irresponsibly, and take a look at the number of like school shootings. How many of those people doing school shootings have a 110 IQ or higher? Not many.
Or come from broken homes.
Well, I would argue that a good majority of them are on the lower intelligence scale, like at least one standard deviation under the mean. Yeah. And that's kind of the other thing is like, okay, let's take a look at intelligence and violence, and I guarantee you there's a correlation between low IQ and high violence.
Absolutely is.
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing is if the average intelligence is going down, then that tells you that you're going to have an increase in violent crime, serial killing, mass murders.
Violent crime isn't always dependent on the fact of whether or not there's mental health issues. Like it could be just dependent on like a spur of the moment of like an angry outburst. Like
right, that's what we're talking. Impulse control is a mental health issue.
I don't think impulse control is a mental health issue. I think it should be practiced at an early age when you're a child. But I mean, that's again what you guys are saying about like environments that you grow up in, more or less. Like if your parents are willing to say no to you or say yes to you, and whether or not they're willing to. And if you have both parents at home, like I think it's a lot. There's a lot of different factors to it.
There is evidence for that. But the thing I would argue is this: is like if you have an issue with impulse control, what is like. How are you going to exert control over your impulse control problems?
Yeah, but I don't think, me personally, and this is the reason why I probably can't really see your viewpoint, is because me as an individual, I don't think I have that as a problem. Like, as I said, you know a little bit of a backstory.
Well, having a temper and having, like, here's the thing, it's like getting angry versus getting angry and shooting someone in the fit of that anger. It's a very different thing. It's like that's the
I know, but I think I've experienced that before, like where I've thought.
Yeah, like I experience rage all the time. Like
it's just straight blinding rage. But it's like
exactly.
But what stops you is cognitive.
No, I think it's my own willpower on myself because, as I said, I've done.
Well, that's what I'd say is like
more
I would argue
in my lifetime.
I would argue your intelligence is the thing that helps you with your impulse control because you can see consequences, and that's really what we're talking is if like people don't have the mental faculty to see consequences. It's not that they can a lot of people get rage. I feel like anybody can do that.
Issues. I think anybody in the right mind can definitely see that.
I think a lot of people
like,
don't.
This is the nature of mental health disorders. It implies that it's something outside of your control. You know, it's like, oh, don't be depressed. Like, okay.
But
Like,
outside of that,
No,
even,
but you know what? This is one thing I don't like. You know how you just said that don't do depressed thing? Look, my whole take on depression and anxiety and all that other stuff that fall into that same realm, or they don't fall in the same realm, but they're same kind of connected a little bit, like through a very thin web. But I don't like when people use it as
well,
a
this
crutch.
that may give, like, this is the other thing, is that may give more credence to like a histrionic behavior or something like that. And that's part of the thing is like, there's a whole, like, generally when you have, like, they call comorbidity, like your chances of having ADHD and having sleep disturbance or addiction problems or depression or
but I have
which is
I have a lot of those traits that you just mentioned. Like
right.
I've
This is what I
had
mean.
those.
Is like generally mental health issues, they operate in packs and comorbidity, where it's very hard to, like, one of the things that they do is, like, if you go to a therapist and you're high, the first thing they're going to do is treat your addiction, because they can't actually get to the subroot problems of, say, your depression or your impulse control issues until you have the addiction portion handled and controlled.
Yeah.
Because the nature of, like, how different diseases mask each other. That's what I'm getting at.
and
they're
that's
masking each other, and they see you depending upon an addiction and self-medicating.
No,
with
I
certain,
understand. I
mechanism.
understand the correlation of what you're saying. But my point being is, you don't, like, not all the time do you need to seek that as like some type of correct, like, measure for it. Like, I think if you literally sit down and you really kind of evaluate yourself and think and use a thought process and take the time to actually think, like,
right, and that's the thing. It's like,
internally think
how many people don't do that. Like,
they or incapable.
Yeah,
I
or
don't
inca-
believe
or
that people
they're-
are incapable of it. I
It's
feel like
almost
it's like
bog-
within
mind
everybody's
that's the
realm.
thing is, like, you're under the impression that, like, it's, and I understand the cognitive bias of, like, you're holding other people to the same standard that you hold yourself, which is a respectable thing. I'm just saying in the sense that, like, there are many people who do not evaluate their actions or consequences in any way,
Okay,
shape, or
or
form.
care.
I definitely, okay, I'm not going to say I completely disagree, but the only reason, and as what you said, the reason why I probably do disagree is because I have a bias. I have a bias definitely because I used to have a drinking problem, but I quit cold turkey. And
Yeah.
And then you know, I can do
Yeah,
that. Same with-
and I
I
would
had
say
ADHD.
addiction-
I literally
Yeah.
grew out of that somehow. Like, I literally just realized how
that's
to
common with
hyper-focus.
that is common with ADHD. Like, there is about
Yeah.
a 40 to 50% rate where people, it, like, depends on if you have hyperactive disorder, whether you have attention deficit disorder. If you have ADD, your chances of growing out of it are much higher through puberty than ADHD. Hyperactivity seems to be more common because
Yeah,
it
but I
seems to
have
be associated
people I
with,
know in their like 30s, right? 30, 32, and they still say they have it. And I'm like, how the fuck do you still have it? And they're like,
oh, I still
it's
like I
possible.
still
yeah,
have
I know,
it. Like, that's-
but like, I feel like they just use it as a crutch because I've had it for so long. And,
no, because this is the thing, is, like, the question is this, is, like, one of the things that happens with mental illness is, like, especially with ADHD, we'll use that as the example, is, like, just because they learn coping mechanisms as ways to sidestep their deficits. And that's the nature of,
Okay,
like,
that-
and take
okay.
the,
It's a thin
Yeah.
line, though. Now, I want to say this.
Yeah, I'm not saying
thin
it's a
line,
crutch,
with coping
but-
mechanisms.
No, I know you're not
with
saying it's a
coping
crutch.
mechanisms, they can
Yeah,
also become the addiction themselves and become a facet
right.
of that
They can
mental
use it as a
illness.
dependency, like that they can rely on that perceived weakness as their dependency rather than finding coping
Yeah.
skills to sidestep it. Yeah.
But that's the
Now,
thing.
when-
Like, when I was brought up, right, I used to use it as an excuse. Like, literally, if my mom asked me why I wasn't doing my homework or like why I wasn't paying attention, and I was like, you know, because she knew I had ADHD and shit, I would just use it as an excuse. And she's like, she looks at me and she's like, that's a crutch. She's like, why are you using that as an explanation of like why you're not actually trying? She's like, if you actually put forth the effort, guarantee
Well,
you'll render
And I can-
results.
Dude, I can show you every report card I have of two things. Like, he talks in class and he has problems with impulse control.
Same thing,
And,
yeah.
like, not that that's a crutch, but it's in the sense of, like, if you believe that you can willpower away mental health issues, then you don't understand what mental health issues are. And that's the
You're
nature
right,
of,
but
like,
I
like,
guess
yes,
I-
people do use them as crutches. I do agree, but the premise of, like, can I just will this away? No,
Okay.
like,
Yeah,
not for certain
that's-
ones, like, not
that's an
histrionics.
interesting
Yeah,
thought.
not.
And that
Yeah.
I do agree with that, and that's an interesting thought. But then as well, you look at that on a grand scale as far as a general consensus or a media's view of it or aspect of it. When they see violence or they see shootings or they see mass shootings, for example, they still go, you know, with all of this technology that we've been developing and all of this research and breakthroughs every year, we're discovering something new about ourselves related with genetics and mental illness and learning more about how to treat the root of it and stop the spread of it and the growth of it in our society. People still go, video games are too violent, making people do violent things. Movies are too violent, making people do violent things. Books are too violent, making people do violent things. Music, the lyrics in this song. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
that shit
but that's a crutch on the
bothers me.
media.
But that isn't that the same crutch syndrome? though, is like trying
Yeah.
to.
It's the same crutch. It's just another side.
Yeah,
of the
there's
fence.
Yeah.
two. Yeah,
And if- and
exactly.
that's the thing is
upon
like if you
something
could
ignorant,
just like when
and-
high speed pornography came out, there was a large lobbying group against it. And like, let me ask this for you guys: do you think that access to high speed HD pornography has improved your quality of life, or
HD,
HD 4K, like
4K, baby.
60 fps? Do you think access to pornography has improved your life or decreased the quality of your life?
I only watch ASMR box openings in 144 frames per second.
On a serious note, though, it's different for each person because some people don't even give a shit about porn. Me personally, it's okay, but
No, and I would argue that too. But I mean, like on a whole for society. Sorry, maybe I should specify. Like, do
Yeah.
you think society is better off having access?
I think
to this?
I think definitely so. Definitely, that's definitely like the chances are like it's easy access. The shit doesn't have to get really weird and rapey. Fuck it.
Yeah, you don't have to get all
porn.
testosterone, and that's the thing
Yeah.
I would argue too. Is like, yes, there are people who use mental illness as a crutch to try to rationalize their shitty behavior, but that tells you
Exactly.
that there is a cognitive dissonance that has not been addressed in any shape, and that's a coping mechanism in and of itself to protect the ego. And that's part of the other thing that
Yeah.
nature of
Okay.
it is like, and certain things are genetically based more so than others. Like,
And
take
and I would say
Yeah.
honestly you've changed my mind on it. But I mean I still kind of have a little bit of always in the back of my head when someone says they have something.
oh yeah,
always
you
just
should definitely
feels
still
like
litmus test it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
be cautious. But still, ego is the devil in the details of it all,
Hmm.
and that's where a lot of things stem from. It's always it's a ladder of each step of the ladder is at the base of it is the root of said affliction, and then at the top is there a goal at the top of that? Is how fast do they ascend the ladder, and each level of that ladder being different problems that they deal with in their day-to-day life, and do they make those problems overcome them? Are those problems then obstacles, or do they use those problems as opportunities?
But
Well, that's the thing.
And-
Is like that's assuming that it's a conscious process, and that's
Yeah,
part of
and
the
I
only
mean,
thing I'd point
a
out.
lot
is
of
like,
times, yeah,
yeah, it's like
I feel Prods was talking like it was a conscious thing. Like
No,
I'm
but
just
I'm,
Well,
what
is
I'm,
it-
what
is
I'm
it-
saying is
that's the
fact
question.
that what I'm saying is like maybe they're doing it without realizing they're doing it. But in my
Well-
opinion, when someone's like, oh, this is because of this behavior, I'm depressed or I'm anxious or whatever along those lines. But it doesn't. You shouldn't be able to use it to justify your shitty behavior, and you shouldn't
No,
really
I don't
expect
think you should either.
automatically to people to sympathize with you because everybody's got a fucking issue. All right, the world's hard. Like life's hard as a whole. Like it's not fucking easy. Not everybody's
but that
born into
that
the
speaks
fucking,
to your coping mechanism, and this is the
I
question I would
guess,
ask.
but
It's
it's like
like
I've
you
had
don't
to-
like. Here's the thing: is like here's my false dichotomy. I'll say it's like if somebody uses something, their shitty behavior, and rationalizes it away, and it's a subconscious process, or whether they consciously realize it and then still do it. Is there really any external difference that you can test? Not easily. Like it's not. You can test by frequency with which they do it. But the question is this: is like if they have a mental health issues that changes their cognitive ability to actually process these emotions, and like they whisk that emotion away because it hurts their ego or that hurts whatever, like that, like people don't like looking at their problems. And I would argue too is like that's a coping mechanism in and of itself that has to be relearned or
admitting.
right. Then that's what I
Yeah.
mean. It's
Admitting their
like there's a
problems.
whole coping mechanism structure in that very process, whether it's conscious or
yeah.
subconscious,
Me
that
and
gives
you have
credence to their
talked
mental health
about
issue.
talked about like literally like the whole level of like linguistics and stuff like that, and I don't, as I said, I don't disagree with you. Just I guess the way I was brought up, it's kind of ingrained to me. So it's
Yeah,
like,
me too. Like
that's
A
how
lot
I
of people have
like,
been
oh,
brought
just
up that
walk it
way,
off. Yeah, like, oh,
parents.
you just need to focus. You're not living up to
you're
your
okay.
potential. Like that whole shit. Like, yeah, like
Like, I
that's
mean,
kind of
you
the thing.
know,
It's like,
Everybody gets sad once in a while, gets depressed. I mean, like it happens. It's just a part of being a human, right? Like it eventually happens.
Yeah, but then there are genuine
clinically
people
depressed.
that
Yes, I understand.
feel that
Yeah.
way every day, every hour.
Hey, did you hear about?
And-
you heard about that story? That dude. There was a guy who was diagnosed with a. It wasn't diagnosed with anything actually. He had constantly like pain, like in his brain, right? Like his brain. It was like a constant headache. It was. I think he was a Canadian actually, and fucking. It was a kid. I think he was about 17 or 18, and he was appealing to the government for assisted suicide, but they wouldn't grant it to him because I guess he was so young. I think it was 17 or 16 around there. And he didn't do it. And like literally every day he went through so much pain, like physically, like in his head, like brain, like it felt like it was being crushed. And they couldn't diagnose it correctly because you can't really comprehend the human brain completely, like 100%. and nobody could understand what the fuck was going on. And so he kept petitioning the government for assisted suicide. And it's you can do it in some provinces in Canada, but actually no, you only do it I think if you're like a really old individual. I think that's the only way it works. And they wouldn't take him. What's the country that also does this? Is it Norway or something?
Yeah,
Sweden.
They wouldn't let him
Norway,
go over
yeah.
there and do
In
it.
Sweden.
They literally just blocked him on every avenue, and so the kid was like, "Fuck it." He left a note. He fucking did it himself, and that was it. I mean, for that, like, I could understand that, like, because as I said, like, you can't figure out what the issue is. It's not depression. It's just he's extreme pain, and he doesn't know why. And nobody can figure out the issue.
This is one of the interesting things about how one of the newer discoveries of how like pain transmission and pain pathways are learned. They found that people who got back surgery to replace or fuse discs that should technically replace the pain issue of like the discs being ruptured or broken, they found that even after they repaired that stuff, there's a very high prevalence of them being on pain medication, because part of that is the brain learns the pathways of pain.
Yeah.
And so even after you repair the physical issue, you can still experience pain long after.
On top of opiate addiction.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of the other, and that's the whole other, like, that's why we clear the addiction first. And yeah, that's part of the other thing too, is like, yeah, this is why like gabapentin is one of the newer things, that treating people with gabapentin to try and block that process or interrupt that process of the brain learning pain pathways. But if you've been living with pain for upwards of 5 years, you've kind of rewired in some sense. And so like treatment for that is not easy. Like it's not, there's no like one size fits all for that.
I was actually reading
There's
something
almost
about this
no real
too.
easy way to any affliction problem.
Well, look,
well,
as I said, I want to kind of end this on a little bit of a note and be like, look, okay, what I've expressed in the end of this podcast and what my opinion is, these are my opinions. So you can't don't hold anybody else. No, I'm just
that's okay. Like,
I'm mentioning it to the
telling us
viewers. I'm
your
not mentioning it to you
standard.
guys. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So I'm just like letting the viewers know. I'm like, don't hold any of these two guys accountable for the way I view it. It's just my opinion.
No,
As I
it's
said,
fine.
Google has changed my opinion from time to time.
And I would say that's a healthy viewpoint, because that's like, again, that's the standard that you're holding to yourself. You're not holding anybody else to a higher standard. So.
I don't know, but I just don't want it to come off as like very ignorant, more or less to like
it
people.
won't.
No.
And honestly, it's fine to have different. See, and that's another thing is that it stems also, as I said, in schools and a lot of institutions don't handle mental illness or most issues properly or well enough. Everything is always just a big fumble, just awaiting for an apology at the end, but it does its damage past that point. And I think institutionally, not just societal, but in most institutions, things are so lacking from medical science and true understanding of mental illness and impacts of violence actually affecting children or youth or people in general from just media alone, and they still take that as credible fact. I mean, there's so much more to it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what is a coping mechanism? A coping mechanism is a simple rule to deal with a complex problem, and that's kind of the nature. It's a complex thing.
Not enough solutions.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think the world isn't as violent as they say it is. Yes, there's war. Yes, there's famine. Yes, there's terrible acts being committed through terrorism, domestic and foreign. But still, consider what the world was. I mean, it was imagine war in every continent.
Yeah, no, well,
Like,
and then you
imagine
figure
that.
too is like, living to 35 and then dying from tooth decay, or 1 in 3 women dying from childbirth.
Or getting
like,
a hatchet through your head.
Yeah, no shit.
But as long as there have been humans, there have been shitty people on this world, and
Well, that's the magic. We like to fight,
that's
boy. I
the
tell you
magic.
what. 1v1 me.
Yep.
Packets.
packets.
Don't
There are
go to
shitty
packet,
people
don't
out
go.
there. Does it make all humans violent? Just like there are some mushrooms that are edible and good for you. Not all mushrooms are good for you, though.
So yeah, basically what Haus is saying is, if you have a mental health issue, you're going into an internment camp. Good night, guys. No.
Hey, that's not what I said. No. For real though. People who say, I don't know, video games make you violent, movies make you violent. From the sheer amount of discussion and conversation we just had just a bit ago, it's a lot of it's common sense at this point. I would hope so.
Guns
for most
don't kill people. People kill people.
But I mean, like, come on. if you still believe that shit that they've been talking about since like what Detroit Rock City came out, where the Moms Against Kiss, that bullshit, get your head out of your ass. Because I mean, seriously. And I mean, yes, is there a problem with guns? Yes. Is there a problem with mental illness? Yes. Do all the people that shoot up schools or shoot up public places have mental illness? No. Well, that stems to a deeper issue. Everything is a deeper issue and meaning and explanation behind it that needs cognitive and clear thinking, which, as we stated, people are getting dumber. That's true. I think the world is getting dumber. And that,
At least
I
for
think
now.
that's a,
You know, I just
for
argue
now,
this too:
right
is
now,
how
we're
many
on a
stoners
decline.
shoot up schools? I rest
They
my
can't-
case. Done.
Man, I don't know.
It's too much work.
I've seen some angry stoned people.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Do they drink too? Seems to be a
No. No, that would explain it. I've seen people that are stoned, but then you have to think maybe that was laced with PCP or something.
highly unlikely.
Maybe.
Increase
I
the
almost got
value too
headbutted
much.
by a guy at a concert who was smoking from some type of pipe, but apparently
some
it
glass
was
pipe.
laced with angel
Methamphetamine.
dust.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was why they wanted to headbutt me.
Yeah.
But
Remember,
I don't know.
kids, spiking drugs is not cost effective. So
Glass pipe,
Yep.
baby.
It isn't cost effective. Just drink chocolate milk.
Yeah.
Nesquik, Nestle.
All right, and let's wrap this up a little bit.
wrap it up.
So, if you guys have any more comments, concerns, or input, again, shoot the email, message, leave a comment on the YouTube, do whatever you need to do.
Just
Yeah.
mail
And,
us
we'll
your
take a look
dirty
at it.
cum rags.
Yeah, just send me
The
box of
Derailed
songs.
Podcast at gmail.com. Leave us your suggestions, comments, little tidbits of information about yourself, your blood type, the length of your hair. You can also hit us up at Twitter, the Derailed Boys at Twitter. And, keep following us on all the wonderful podcast platforms that you love to follow. But you can find all of our main information on Podbean, and we're also on Facebook now. All of which is linked on Podbean. You can find all of our wonderful little areas to enjoy the episodes. But yeah, that was pretty much our discussion on violence. Is the world too violent? And I think that pretty much wraps it up. I'm Haus,
I'm Google.
and we have Prods.
It's me.
Little Mumbles.
It's
Big
me.
Mumbles in Little China, dude.
It's me.
It's me.
All right, boys.
It's me.
See you next week.
All right.
See you next week. Hope you like this music.
Bye.